recognized.
Mr. President, I came in at the tail end of the comments from my colleague and my friend from Delaware, and he has underscored some points that I think are important to remind us here in the Senate, but also people who are watching as we are in day 16 of a government shutdown. There's no great secret as to how we get the government fully functioning again. It is going to come about through cooperation. It is going to come about through good faith efforts by good folks who are intentioned to address the matters in front of us. We deal with politics. This is a political world. But I can tell you that so many of the people that I'm talking to don't really care about the politics of our situation. They don't care if the Democrats are winning or the Republicans are winning. They feel like, as Americans, they're the ones that are being caught in this backwash. They don't understand why their flight was delayed or canceled this morning. They don't understand why the individual that they're trying to get through to at an agency is not picking up the phone, or they get a message saying that that this office is going to be closed until the government is reopened. What they care about is that we figure it out, and that requires communication. It requires talking with one another. And that's why I appreciate much of what my colleague has shared to this, because as we are positioning as two sides that are seemingly dug in on this 16th day of a shutdown, real people are wondering, is their government going to be there for them? Mr. President, I didn't come to the floor this afternoon with a focus necessarily on the shutdown. I came to speak about a situation in my state that has literally closed off, shut down, collapsed whole communities. We had a storm, actually a series of storms, hit the west coast of Alaska just over the weekend. In this smaller inset here, you've got the state of Alaska, but this square panel is where the extent of the damage is. But this was a 1,000-mile storm going from the north up in Kotzebue all the way down into the Bristol Bay region, with the bulk of the damage on these small native communities that are focused on the coasts and up going into the Kuskokwim River. But it has been a disaster of major proportions. As we speak, we have communities that are being evacuated. And we understand when we talk about evacuation what that might mean. But people in these villages, in the villages of Kipnuk and Kwigillingok, are being told that you are everyone from your village is being evacuated. And it doesn't mean that you go to a town that's a few miles down the road to get to safety. It means that you are airlifted 500 miles to Anchorage, or possibly closer to Bethel. But before I detail some of that, I think it's important to recognize that what we had happening over the weekend, while this massive storm, a storm that was bringing winds in excess of 100 miles an hour, flood surges that were pummeling the coast with inundation levels like we have never seen before. We heard, saw, read the stories of people who were trapped in their homes at night when the home was literally lifted off of its foundation and carried away in the current with families inside. One detail of a father and 4 children who woke his children up to say, we all need to go into one corner of the house in case the house tips. But to hear the fear, really the terror of being trapped in your own home as it is moving out into the ocean current. The U.S. Coast Guard, the Alaska National Guard were on deck, as they always are, saving lives. The U.S. Coast Guard rescued and saved 34 people. The Alaska Air Guard saved 8. The Alaska Air National Guard saved 9. Unfortunately, we did have one individual who is confirmed dead and 2 others that are believed and feared deceased as well, with 1 yet unaccounted for. But sharing the pictures of the extent of the damage, it's amazing that more did not lose their lives. This is a picture of the village of Kipnuk with the inundation. Here's the airport here, the airstrip, and the community literally entirely beneath the water. In this, you can see a little more clearly how the floodwaters have come throughout the entire village. Again, you see boats that are upended, roofs that are ripped off of homes. The destruction is just violent. A home that is drifting in the river water. This is in Kipnuk. This is a picture also in Kipnuk. Kipnuk is a community. Most of these communities many of the communities are what we call boardwalk communities. Boardwalk communities because we don't have roads. So you move about on small 4-wheelers. That's how you get to where you need to get, whether it's to school or otherwise. But literally everything in the community upended. Power poles snapped in half. So you can imagine the condition. There is no power. There is no water. There is no safe place. These individuals have been initially rescued to the schools where they were kept safe. But now what we are in the midst of is this massive evacuation project. More than 1,000 people, again from 11 communities, have now been displaced. You had a situation where in Kipnuk, this village, you have about 680 people that are evacuated into the small school. In Quigilangak, about 400 people took shelter at the local school for a couple days. And keep in mind, don't have running water, restroom facilities aren't functioning. So the efforts that we saw from our search and rescue efforts, from our Coast Guard, from the Guard, from those who have come to the aid now, everyone from the World Kitchen to Samaritan's Purse to Red Cross, those efforts have been considerable. And we're getting people to shelter and to safety now. This is a picture that was taken late yesterday evening. This is the inside of a C-130. And there's about 300 people from Kipnuk that have been put inside the C-130. They're all sitting on the floor there, and they're being evacuated to Anchorage, Alaska. Again, this is 400 miles away. The efforts in Anchorage are considerable to make sure that they're going to be in safety. But it is a mass shelter. It is basically it's in our sports arena at the Alaska Airlines Center in an auxiliary gym. They're going to be able to put 350 to 500 people. We're putting a convention center facility together to house another 800. So this is all very, very temporary. But the reality is that for so many of these people, they will not have homes to go back to. About 120 of the homes in Kipnuk will not be, are not repairable. They are completely destroyed. About 40 possible to repair. But again, this is the 16th of October, and conditions in this part of the state of Alaska right now, we're moving into winter. We're moving into winter, and so the idea that you can do construction in the wintertime, it doesn't happen. The last fuel barge to this region until next spring, until probably late May or June, the last fuel barge has come and gone. That means the ability to move supplies in and out and do any kind of construction, that's not happening. So for so many of these are going to be people who will be without a home. But I'm reminded that they are not homeless. They are not homeless. They are evacuees. And all they want is the ability to be safe somewhere for the moment. But looking forward, it's going to be hard. It's going to be very, very challenging to address the issues that they face in their community with the threats that they have. The storm that they had, we get storms every year. We get storms every year, but what we're seeing is an increasing frequency of lethal storms. Several years ago, we had Typhoon Halong, again coming across from Japan, that just pummeled the coast. Again, a 1,000-mile storm. We're still recovering from Hurricane Halong, or Typhoon Halong. And then just last year, again, another series of disasters along this same coast. And then this weekend, Typhoon Halong, once again, coming across from Japan. So the reality is we're seeing more and more of these. And the reality is that these storms come in October, but it used to be that we would already have ice that was coming into these northern waters by then. And the ice was enough to slow things down, to cool the waters down. But when you don't have the ice in the water is warming. This was perhaps an unusual weather pattern that came, but combined with that warmer water, it just churns this typhoon up. And so our reality is we are seeing in real time the impacts when you have a warmer ocean and less ice, which leads you to how you deal with these issues and these matters of resilience. This is hard. This is extraordinarily hard right now. And our hearts are with those who have lost their loved ones, who have lost so much, who have lost their home, but who are so anxious about what this means going forward and how we can be there for them. So I've got a great deal of respect and thanks and admiration for all who are pulling together to provide for relief efforts and to be thinking more long-term about how we ensure that the people of Quig and the people of Kipnuk and the people of Nightmute and Napakiak and Stebbins and Tuksuk and all up and down the coast, that they are safe in their homes where they have lived for thousands of years. Right now, we have the largest gathering of Alaska Natives that are convening in Anchorage for their annual convention. And so much of the convention this year is going to be focused on the matter of resilience and support for our communities. So I share these observations with colleagues, not because Alaska's storm is more powerful or more lethal or more devastating than the storms you may have in your state, Mr. President. Tennessee has seen some awful, horrible flooding. We're seeing this now. But it's a reminder to us here in Congress of the role that we do play, because all of our communities don't have the ability to provide that protection for themselves. So how do we build out more resilient communities? And then further to that point, when the disaster happens, how can we be there to support them in ways that make it real and meaningful for them, particularly in cultures where traditions may just be different than what we know and understand here in Washington, D.C. I'm going to end with a couple comments that were made just the other day when the governor held a briefing, a press conference about the ongoing impacts of this disaster. And one comment was made by U.S. Coast Guard Captain Christopher Culpepper, who said, "If you think about previous instances of major inundations, such as Hurricane Katrina, that will start to paint the picture for what you might imagine what has happened along western Alaska." And then our Adjutant General, General Sachs, said that this may end up being the largest off-road system response for the National Guard in about 45 years. So our reality is hard right now, and it's challenging. But one thing that I know about the people, not only in this region, but the people in my state, is there is a level of resilience, there is a level of determination. They are connected to their place, they're connected to their lands, and we want to make sure that they are able to have that cultural connection, that identity to the place that they have called home for thousands of years. And my final point is those who were literally engaged in rescue efforts to ensure that people were taken out of homes that were floating in the ocean, those that were doing the overflights in miserable storms, those that are there on the ground now, they were all out there doing their job at a time when it was not certain that they were going to be paid. Now that tension point has been resolved because the president announced that our military would be paid through this next pay period. The Coast Guard as well, which is critically important. But I think our job, our responsibility, is to make sure that they don't have to worry about that. When they're flying a rescue mission, they're not thinking about whether or not their spouse at home is concerned about whether they're buying groceries or paying the rent. So we've got work to do here, but to those back home in Alaska who are working so closely on the ground to care for those who are truly afraid right now, truly afraid about their future, know that we are all working with you, and our hearts are with you. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.